Okay, so we're talking to Micah today from 2020, and he runs marketing and also part of the sales operations too. Micah, how's it going?
It's going well.
Good to see you. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about kind of what you're up to over here, and I guess you can elaborate on what I said.
So we switched about a year ago from like a massively sales-driven model to almost entirely self-service, although we have one salesperson basically doing sales contracts from previous, as well as some AR collection and some new sales bookings as well. But basically we figured out that in aggregate, it's a much more effective model and a much easier, a stronger LTV to CAC when you basically do digital advertising throughput to revenue. So instead of trying to go after prepaid annual contracts, which is what we did with the sales team, we said, okay, month-to-month subscriptions and look at the LTV in that world. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty incredible, the shift for like 1/5 the amount of cost of revenue. We're now scaling faster than we ever did with sales.
But how did you start recruiting in the beginning?
As we started to hire more people, we actually really targeted colleges. So we targeted people coming out of college.
Got it.
And then bringing them into an interview process where we asked them some critical thinking questions, had some role playing for sales calls, and tried to understand what their potential looked like. And then basically bring them on board, and some percentage of them would struggle in the beginning, and some percentage of them would really thrive, and then we'd promote the people that thrive.
How long did you give them to struggle or thrive before you either cut the cord or continued?
It was a few months, but like in most cases, it was self-selected. Mm-hmm. You know, they're kind of trying out a new role coming out of college, and some of them it's just not a good fit, and they kind of knew that. But the nice thing about growing very quickly as a sales organization is that everyone's seeing the path forward. And so they can see that if I can do well at this job, then I'll get moved into a role where I'm closing some deals and booking some appointments. And then if I do really well, I can focus entirely on closing deals and closing larger contracts, mm-hmm. which I think was something like 10% commission of the bookings will come back to you.
Got it.
So some incremental leveling process to show a career path and a way to actually make a little bit of money and learn some skills. So that was the idea.
Cool. So that's how you scale a sales team from the very beginning. And I guess what's working for 2020 nowadays? What are you doing? You guys are scaling past 3.5 million annual recurring revenue. Mm-hmm. What's crushing for you guys?
We have a growth marketing team, and mostly we're just growth marketers and engineers. We have one salesperson who's doing a pretty good job at booking some deals and just kind of talking to enterprise level people who raise their hands. But our very, very core thing that we're trying to scale right now is our self-service revenue. So people that are marketers and designers coming to our site and then deciding to have a subscription.
Mm-hmm. So they can just buy on their own?
Just buy on their own. Yeah. So that's what we call self-service. You just check out online. And the average price point's $100 to $200. And then our LTV is basically some amount of months that we expect for them to stay around within the following year.
So that's lifetime value?
Yeah. So lifetime value. So we look at 1 year lifetime value. Mm-hmm. There's obviously, they could stick around for longer. We look at within the first 12 months, how much revenue they're gonna bring to us and what our contribution margin is. Mm-hmm. So effectively how much profit we get per customer as well.
Right.
And then we look at the payback period on the ad spend, and then we put all of our digital advertising against that. Mm-hmm. So today it's a mixture of paid social, search marketing, and also we have a couple partnerships for advertising. One of them you can probably see if you go is like pexels.com, where it's mm-hmm. basically an API integration mm-hmm. to pull in our photos from like a free stock photo site to be like, here's some premium stock photos, try out 2020. So we're starting to explore other partnerships where we can actually show our photo as the ad unit, which contextualizes some of the actual product itself, mm-hmm. and then drives a pretty high conversion rate.
So how do you set up, I mean, people are probably interested, how do you set up these partnerships? Like what criteria do you look to, all that kind of stuff? Basically
the one in Pexels, in this particular case, I was actually in Berlin for vacation mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A couple months ago. And I ended up just getting connected in the tech scene mm-hmm. to the people that are out there, because that's where they're based. Mm-hmm. After a couple beers and some nights of hanging out, we got to know each other, we decided to run an experiment. So we said, could we take a percentage of the traffic, get something set up, look at the baseline metrics, and then build all of our projections on top of that. A lot of it's relationship driven. Mm-hmm. So when you set up these partnerships, there's got to be some level of trust across the organizations, trying to actually understand who these people are, get to know them, across the world, basically. Any given experiment that we're doing, all of the negotiations, all the conversations are based on trust. They're based on that, hey, I understand you're looking out for your own business, but also let's get something that works for both of us, mm-hmm. and trusting that that's the case.
So you guys
stock
have the
photos.
highest quality stock photos that I've seen. So how does that help marketers out there? Like, what kind of things have you seen? Any case studies about how it helps with conversion rates or whatever? What can we nerd out about there?
Sure. There's a couple things that are very interesting. One, like we've seen increased click-through rates. I mean, not even for our customers, like for that ad unit I described with Pexels, like against the competitor, we're seeing a higher click-through rate back to our site and a higher conversion rate from just the quality of the photos themselves. But we've seen across the board that digital advertisers and marketers are seeing a higher engagement rate, so sharing, commenting, likes, clicks across the board. And ultimately, there's a couple studies that were done independently that looked at conversion rates from ad units through to sites and just the Instagram style, authentic style, converting at a much higher rate. Let's talk about the reason, right? So the reason that people do that is largely a bit of a branding reason, which is that people, I think, are just sick of seeing like a staged white background photo in their feeds and Instagram and Facebook. And so when they're scrolling, I mean, they know. So for marketers that are trying to reach people, you have to come across as a friend, as somebody who's another person on the other side, and have a personality. And there's no personality when you have a staged photo that clearly expresses that, like, we're trying to take money from you, which is not what you want to do. You want to express that we are a brand with an identity and a perspective and real, and we have something of value for you in the world. And here's an expression of that value. So we believe very firmly that that's the thing that's going to help marketers succeed, especially in this new age of digital advertising, social media marketing, content marketing, and all of that.
Got it. Love it. Well, Micah, thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
Cool.
Hey, so I hope you enjoyed that video. So all you gotta do now, let us know what you think in the comments if you'd like to see more of these, and don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the thumbs up, and we'll see you later.